Alright, moving on to black here. Appendage Amalgam. 2 and a black for a 3/2 flash. When it attacks, surveil 1. Okay, like the white one with vigilance, not that good. A 3/2 doesn't attack that well. A flash card can sometimes ambush, but not that effectively. Like you have to ambush like a 1/2 or a 1/1 or a 1/3. I think it's pretty mediocre, like a C-. It's an enchantment though. Balemerk Leech, 1 and black for a 2/2 eerie. When it enchants, you control entity when you finally unlock a room, each opponent loses 1 life. Alright, 1 life is not that much, and this is not an enchantment by itself. That looks like another C- to me. I think this is not gonna deal enough damage. But it's a card you can throw in your deck if you like need a 2-drop, then it's gonna do a little extra. If you get like 3 triggers off this, you're pretty happy though. Cackling Slasher, 3 and a black for a 3/3 Death Touch, and it ends with a +1/+1 counter if a creature died this turn. It's a classic card you want to cast post-combat, and the funny thing is the difference between a 3/3 Death Touch and a 4/4 Death Touch is not even that big. But I think a 3/3 Death Touch 4 is perfectly acceptable, and a 4/4 Death Touch 4 is also pretty good. So I think this is a C. It's a kind of card that you can play in your deck without being too embarrassed, and it's gonna trade for something. And yeah, it also combines, you can maybe cast a removal spell and then play this in the same turn sometimes if you've got a lot of mana. Come Back Wrong. We have a rare here, 2 and a black for a sorcery, you destroy a creature. And if a creature card put into a graveyard this way, return it to the battlefield under your control. Sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. So if you kill a creature that comes into play effect, you get the effect. You do not get to attack with it though. So this is mostly 3 mana destroy a creature, but if you're killing something with a good ETB, you're gonna get a lot of value. The problem is sometimes the best thing you want to kill does not have an ETB, and then if you want to kill like something with ETB, you may not kill the best creature in play. All in all, 3 mana destroy creature sorcery speed is about a C+, I think. And I don't think this is more than that. It's like a C+. The question is this better or worse than Nocturnal Hunger? I think it's about the same. You don't lose the life or have to gift, but it's a sorcery. And I don't think the effect is that absurd. I think it's a C+ though. Would be happy to play it in my black decks. Commune with Evil, 2 and a black. You look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 1 into your hand and the rest into your graveyard, you gain 3 life. So if you got a Reanimator deck, this is gonna be even better than normal. I think if you're not using your graveyard, it's not that good. It's kind of nice if you're blue-black with a blue mythic that you need to exile 6 cards. Then I will play this card because six puts you 4 cards. This plus the 3 don't take. All in all, not a great card. But if you are a Reanimator or have other reasons to have cards go into your graveyard, I could see it performing about a C level. I think it's mostly a D+. 3 mana to look at 4, take 1 is just too clunky. Even if you gain 3 life, it's not worth it. It's like a union of the third path, you know. Not that great in limited, much better in constructed. Cracked Skull, 2 and a black for an aura. You enchant a creature. When it enters, you look at target player's hand, you choose a non-land card from it that player discards that card. So it's like a coercion. And when enchant creature dealt damage, destroy it. Huh, interesting. So it's like a coercion that with a little bit of extra upside. If you put in this on a big creature, your 1/1 suddenly can just trade for them. That's nice. I don't think a 3 mana coercion is that good though. And sometimes every once in a while you will put this on a creature and your opponent's gonna sacrifice it in response. And what if your opponent doesn't have any creature in play? You have to put this on this, and then it's actually a downside. It's kind of fun. I'm not sure this card is good. I think it's a D+. I don't think the ability is actually that good. And the funny thing is, if your opponent got no creatures in play, it's actually a downside. Cynical Loner, 1 and a black for a 3/1. It can't be blocked by glimmers. We've seen some of those so far, and it is nice that this one can't be traded for those. And the beginning of the sacred remains, if this is tapped, you must search your library for a card, put it in your graveyard and shuffle. Seems like a minor effect. You get to entomb, but you can maybe put some reanimate target there, or maybe a card that works from your graveyard. This doesn't seem like a great card though. I think it's like a D+, pretty mediocre. It's not like there are so many glimmers in play that this is gonna be much more than a 2-mana free one. Seems like a not that good of a card. D+. Dashing Bloodsucker. We have a vampire here. 3 and a black for a 2/5. Eerie. It gives +2/+1 gaze lifelink at the end of turn. So kind of nice because attacking as a 4/5 lifelink is kind of a nice swing. And when it doesn't attack, it blocks pretty well. So it almost is more like a defensive card than an aggressive card, even though it gets a trigger that gives you more power. Because a lifelink you want in a defensive deck, and a 5 toughness body you want in a defensive deck. So in a deck with a lot of enchantments, I think this is about a C+. I think it's a decent card, but nothing like I'm gonna move into Eerie for. More like a payoff though. Alright, we have Black's first room here. Defiled Crypt and Cadaver Lab. 3 and a black. Whenever one or more cards leave your grave, you get a 2/2 trigger only once per turn. And the black one is when you lock this door, return to a creature card from your grave to your hand. Aha! So this is one where you want to cast the Defiled Crypt first, if you can, so you get a 2/2. But black mana, get a creature back, and then later in the game have this payoff. This card seems kind of sweet. I like the fact that it's like a 1 mana get something back, which is fine, and then leaves like this enchantment that does stuff if you got other reanimate stuff. So I think it's a build around C+ in the right deck. It can do some good work. I don't think it's going to be like an awesome engine that you're going to build your entire deck around. I don't think there's going to be enough ways to cards leave your grave, but it is also a 1 mana raise dead that's an enchantment, so you may play it in like an Eerie deck just because a 1 mana get something back is a fine card and then you're getting some more value on top of that. Demonic Council, 1 or black, sorcery, search level for demon card revealed, put in your hand and shuffle. Delirium, either you get a card. If you got an insane demon, like a mythic rare or rare that's bomb, I think I could see myself playing that because those decks might just get to Delirium at some point. But if I don't have a good demon, I think it's a bad card. I don't want my Delirium card to do nothing when I don't have Delirium. Because if I don't have a sick demon to get, this card does nothing. And now I'm already seeing a demon here. But anyway, I think this is mostly a build around C+, and it's not even like that good of a card if I have a sick demon, because sometimes you're going to draw the demon without it. Sometimes you're stuck on mana and getting the demon does nothing. Because you're stuck on 2 or 3 lands and you don't want an expensive demon. So I think this is mostly a bad card, but I could see it performing like a C+ if you've got some sick demon. Oops. A room? Derelict Attic, 2 and a black for when you unlock this room, you draw 2 cards and you lose 2 life. Oh, right. That's not a bad card. Assuming the other side does something good. Widow's Walk, 3 and a black. Whenever your creature from attacks alone, it gets +1/+1 gains death touch. Man, if that had been lifelink. If that had been lifelink, I would be all over this card. As it stands now, I'm not so excited about it. I think that 3 mana draw 2 lose 2 is not a great card. It's a playable card if the other side was better. The other side is not nothing, but I think all in all we're looking about a D- here. I mean, it is a room, so it also trigger all that stuff. So in a room deck, I can bump it up to like a C, but mostly it's like a D+. All right, here we have a demon. Doomsday Excruciator. It's cost 6 black mana. Black, 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 black. It's a 6/6 flyer. When it ends, if it was cast, each player exiles all but the bottom 6 cards of the library face down. At the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card. Weird card. I'm not even sure that that's last text is an advantage because you're gonna get decked in like 3 turns, but you may get to cast your cards faster. If I'm not mono, I'm never playing this card outside of mana black, of course. Maybe I can reanimate it in some weird decks, but it's also seems like kind of a risky card. I think most of these cards are an F, but if I'm mono black, I'm probably gonna play it because yes, I will die in 3 turns to decking, but I'm also attacking with a 6/6 flyer, and if your opponent kills this, you don't have to draw an extra card. And then your opponent probably gets decked first because both are reset to 6. So in a mono black deck it's like a B, but mostly it's an F because of the mana cost. I could also maybe see playing it in like a black white reanimator deck if I have good ways to discard. Enduring Tenacity, 2 black black for a 4/3. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life, and then it comes back. So it does not help you gain any life, which is funny. So I think this is mostly, if I don't have any life gain in my deck, it's basically just a 4-mana 4/3 that's an enchantment. That's like a D plus type card. If I got some life gain, it becomes better because even if this dies, it still is in play. So if I got some life linkers or life gain, it's more like a B. But most is just doesn't do that much. And even in those kinds of decks, you're not always gonna draw the life gain. So way less good than the other ones, but playable card in if I got some amount of life gain. Then it's more like a B minus type card. Fanatic of the Harrowing, 3 and a black for a 2/2. When it enters, each player discards a card. If you discarded a card this way, draw a card. So you're ahead on the exchange, but not that much. I don't think this card is good because 4-mana 2/2 that draws a card when it comes to draft, which is basically what this is, because both players discard a card, which is even. Not that good of a card. I guess it gets better if you got some reanimator cards. Imagine playing this discarding the demon. I think this is mostly filler, C minus. You're up a card, but 4-mana 2 to draw a card has not been a good card for like 10 years. Fear of Lost Teeth, black mana for a 1/1. When it dies, it deals 1 damage to any target and you gain 1 life. Alright, these cards are always somewhat good. Like these Festering Goblin type cards, and this one even gives you a life. I think it's a C. And in an era deck, it's nice that it's a cheap enchantment that you can even play and like get some value. Gains you a life too for the 4/3 maybe. Then it's a drain. But mostly a C. Fear of the Dark. That's a song with Iron Maiden, I think. 4 and a black for 5/5. When it attacks, if the defending player controls no glimmer creatures, it gains menace and death touch at the end of turn. Alright, I mean, if your opponent's got no glimmers, it's pretty good. 5/5 menace death touch requires a 2/1. And any trick your opponent is in a heap of trouble. This looks like a C+. I think it's also an enchantment. It's it also, even if your opponent has glimmers, it's still a 5-mana 5/5, which I don't think black gets that all the time. So for a common, this seems pretty pushed. I think it's a C+. Final Vengeance, black mana for sorcery. As each cast a spell, sacrifice a creature or enchantment, exile target creature. Mostly a Bone Splinters, but the ability to sacrifice enchantments is extra value. Maybe you play a room and you have no real intention of unlocking the other side of the room. You can sacrifice that instead of a creature. Seems like a build around C in the right kind of deck. Bone Splinters are mostly a mediocre card, but you can get it to work sometimes. Okay, going to another room here. Funeral Room, 2 and a black. Whenever a creature you control dies, each one loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Usually these types of cards comes with a 1/1 and then they are good. When they don't come with a 1/1, they're usually not worth it. But Awakening Hall, 6 black. When you unlock this door, return all creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So the first room helps you to survive until you get the last room. But the thing is, 8 mana return all creatures from your graveyard to play is not a good card. It almost never is. It's too expensive. So if that costs like 6 mana, I would have been way interested. As it stands now, I think it's like a D minus. It doesn't seem like a good card. If you got a 1/1, that would be great, like Bastion of Remembrance. But Bastion of Remembrance is so much worse when you don't get a creature. We don't get spotted a creature. So I think, unfortunately, this is like a D minus F type of card. Give in to violence, 1 and a black. Target creature get +2/+2 against lifelink at the end of turn. Alright, like a moment of heroism for Innistrad fans. It's usually a fine card, like a C. When you win a combat, again, a bunch of life can feel pretty good. But it doesn't give any indestructible or stuff like that. So it's gonna be Swas where it doesn't do much. Grievous Wound, 3 black for enchant player. Enchant player can't gain life. When enchant player dealt damage, they lose half their life rounded up. So that happens after combat. This is a card I've never Never seen quite like this card. Stopping a opponent from gaining life doesn't matter much, but my instinct says that this card is bad. This is basically a card that pays you off of hitting your opponent, but it does not a creature by itself. If you're behind, it does nothing. If you can't get through, it does nothing. I think this is an F, unfortunately. It's a sweet design, but I don't think this card by itself helps you get over the line. Feels like a win more card. Innocuous Rats, 1 black for a 1/1. When it dies, you manifest Dread. These cards are almost always decent because you can jump with them, sacrifice them to stuff, and manifest Dread is slightly better than 2/2. So I think we are looking at a C here. The problem with these cards is that if your opponents are on flyers, your opponents are controlled, like as drawing extra cards, they can just ignore the 1/1, and that's a little bit of a problem. Alright, Killer's Mask, 2 black for an equipment. When it enters, you manifest Dread and then attach it. And the creature has Menace, equip 2. Yeah, it's like the blue one. A little worse, I think. I'd rather have Flying than Menace, and yeah, seems okay, like a C minus. 3 mana, 2 to Menace, just too weak, but yeah, but throwing around Menace is a lot worse than throwing around Flying, I think. Alright, let's play a game. It's this Saw movie here. 3 black for a sorcery. Delirium, choose 1, but if you have Delirium, you get to choose all of them if you want. Creature opponent's control gets -1/-1. Each opponent discards 2 cards, and each opponent loses 3 life in game. If you get all 3, it's good, but if you're only getting 1, all the modes are kind of bad. Last one's terrible. I don't want to drain 3 for 4. Discard 2 cards is bad, and giving -1/-1 is bad. I think the start is not very good. I need to be super heavy on getting to Delirium. Then I can have a playable card, and it's also not even like the giving. It's not like this card is absurd when you get all 3 modes. I think it's a D. It's not a card I think it's worth building around. Leyline on the Void. I'm gonna skip this one. It's an F. I think most people know that. Live or Die. 3 black. Choose 1. You return target creature from the graveyard to the battlefield, or you destroy target creature. Seems like a great card because when you want the 5 mana reanimate card, you really want it. But you have the fail case of just destroying a creature. So I think this is a B minus. Neither of the modes are like insane, but the flexibility here is just awesome because this is the type of card that it can be the best card in your deck almost if you got ways to put an insane card in your graveyard. But then it's gonna have moments where it doesn't do anything. But then you have the other modes. I think it's a B minus in the right kind of deck. Me Took Massacre 2. So they have made this one cost XX black. So it's way harder to cast. It's a legendary enchantment. When it enters, each player sacrifices X creatures. And whenever a creature you control dies, you may pay 3 life. If you do, return that card under your control with finality control. Whenever a creature control dies, they may pay 3 life. They don't return that card under your control with the finality control. I think this card is worse than the OG Me Took Massacre because your opponent gets a choice, but and also sometimes you will not be able to pay life. But I still think it's good, but it is way harder to cast than the OG Massacre. So the OG Massacre was an A. I think this is more like a B just because of how hard it is to cast. But if I'm mono black, it's more like an A level card. But now it's more like a B because this one also doesn't gain you any life, which can sometimes be a little worse. So worse than the OG, but still almost like a build run. If I see this pack one, I might draft mono black. Whereas with a demon, it's way less of a payoff, I think. Speaking of demons, here we have another one. Miasma Demon. 4 black, flying. When it enters, you may discard a number of cards. When you do up to that many creatures, each get -2 until end of turn. Good, but you're not going to have too many cards left. But if you can kill something, this one can help you stabilize. Also, maybe you can discard a reanimation target. Anyway, I think we're looking at a C plus here. I'm not blown away by this card, but it seems decent. By the stage in the game you cast this, -2, -2, it also doesn't kill the most relevant card. Murder, 1 black, destroy target creature. I think I'm gonna start C plus on this card. It wasn't that good in like, what was it? Streets of New Capenna, but that was a 3-color format. I think this is mostly a 2-color format, which means that this card is better. So I think I'm giving it a C plus. Next, Nowhere to Run. 1 black flash. When it enters target creature opponent controls get -3/-3 until end of turn. And creature opponent control can be the target of spells abilities that already didn't have hexproof, and ward abilities doesn't trigger. Mostly 2 mana Last Gasp, but this is an enchantment, so it triggers eerie stuff. It also stays in play if you can bounce it somehow. Seems like a C plus though. Osseous Stick Twister, 1 black for 2 lifelink. And Delirium at the beginning of your end step. If you got Delirium, each opponent may sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. And then this damage goes to power to each opponent who didn't sacrifice a permanent this way, or discard a card. Good card, because a 2/2 lifelink for 2 is a good card. And when you got Delirium, you get to drain for 2 because this has lifelink, unless your opponent wants to give up a resource. So all in all, we're looking at the C plus here. I think it's not like a bomb uncommon, but I think it's gonna get good stuff. I like a 2-mana 2/2 lifelink most of the time. And this one has a little bit of extra upside. It also is an artifact creature, so if this one goes to the yard, it helps you with other cards that could have Delirium. Because I think artifact's one of the harder types to get. Enchantment's not that hard. Overlord of the Baelmer. We have a mythic impending card here. 3 black for a 5/5 with impending 5. So the other ones were 4, but this one only costs 2. When it ends or attacks, mill 4 cards and you return a non-avatar creature card or planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. Alright, a little less insane than the white one, but I think it's better than the blue one because a 5/5 for 5 that draws you a relevant creature are probably better than a 5/3 flyer that draws 2 and discards 1. Especially since when you do this on turn 2, it curves so much more nicely than the other ones because it's so cheap. So I think this is an A-, where the white one is an A+ and the blue one. I think this is slightly better than the blue one, but a little worse than the white. Great card though, and windmilling it if I see it. Pick one, of course. Probably switching for these cards as well. Popular Egotist, 2 black for a 3/2. You can pay 1 black, sacrifice another creature enchantment against indestructible. Tap it. So that's something that often happens after this card's attack and gets blocked. But also, whenever you sacrifice a permanent, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Yeah, that's good. Seems like that could be pretty sick in some constructed decks. Because there is no trigger only once from this. Because I kind of like it because... But this one is way less. Most of these cards are like 2-mana free ones, and this one is way less. It costs mana, you have to sacrifice a resource. The other ones were discard a card, and they were insane. Like the Seasoned Hallowblade type card. I still think it's a decent, it's a C+. But I can bump it up to a B- if you got a lot of ways to sacrifice permanents, because then it can add up. And if you got a free sacrifice outlet, especially one that sacrifices land, I don't know if that's a thing, this card could be kind of insane. But I think it's way less oppressive than like the Seasoned Hallowblade type cards we see sometimes. Resurrected Cultist, 2 back for a 4/1. Delirium, you can pay 4 mana, return it with a finality counter. Yeah, it's very mediocre on the front side, and when it comes back it's nice, but it's gonna happen later in the game and only once. I think it's like filler C-. In a Delirium deck, I think it's C-, like a D- in a regular black deck. Because by the time you get Delirium, doing this thing may not even be what you want to be doing. And the front side is pretty weak. Spectral Snatcher, we have a land cycler here. 4 black for 6/5 ward, discard a card. Swamp cycling 2. Yeah, I think this is all like the blue one pretty decent because by the time you cast this, the ward kind of hurts because the opponent may not have that many cards left in hand. Sometimes you have to like stockpile a land, and sometimes they don't want to discard a card. And Swamp Cycling, I think this is again a C-, doesn't seem like a great card, but black is the reanimate color, and there are worse cards to reanimate than this. You land cycle and you reanimate it, and it has a little bit of a protection. If this had like, I mean, lifelink would be too good, and trample is not really black. But if this had like menace, it would be bump it up much higher. I think that the fact that this has no other keyword than ward is a little disappointing. Sporogenic infection, 1 and a black for an aura. So many enchantments. I think that Air is gonna be pretty easy. You enchant a creature when it enters target please sacrifice is other than the enchanted creature. When enchanted creature dealt damage to so this one I like way more than coercion because this is like a 2-mana edict that also makes another creature weak. I think this is a C+. This looks like a good edict to me. The only awkward thing is that if your opponent only got one creature in play, this does nothing. That's a little awkward. Maybe it's just a C actually. Alright, we have a room. Unholy Annex, 2 and a black. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card. If you control a demon, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Otherwise, you lose 2 life. So mostly you're gonna lose 2 life. That's not good. I'm getting an extra card every turn, but I'm also losing 2 life. That's gonna add up very fast. I guess this helps you hit the demon eventually, but Ritual Chamber, 3 black. When you unlock this door, you get a 6/6 black demon creature. Oh, now we're talking. I would love this card now because I think a lot of the time you're just gonna pay 5 mana, get a 6/6 flyer, and then you have the option of getting this annex that's also gonna drain. So I think mostly this card, you can also just play this on turn 3 and then flip it up on turn 5. Alright, this card is insane. The more I read this card, the more I like it. If this was only the Unholy Annex, it wouldn't be a good card. But now I think it's like an A- type card. Only awkward thing is you play Unholy Annex, then you play the Ritual Chamber, your opponent bounces the demon. Because that's a pretty good answer. Then you're left with this bad aura that's gonna kill you. But you don't even have to do that. If you suspect a bounce spell you're playing against blue, maybe you don't even cast the Annex first. You can cast it later, maybe. Alright, but a great card, A-. Unstoppable Slasher, 2 and a black for a 2/3 Death Touch. Already I'm sold. When it is common time to play, they lose half their life rounded up. That's pretty good. This one is much better than the Aura because it's attacked on a good creature. When it dies, if it had no counters on it, return it to the battlefield tap with 2 stun counters on it. That seems like a good card. I love everything about this card. It's a 2/3 Death Touch for 3. That's good. Your opponent kind of have to block it, which is not that easy some amount of the time. And when they do, it comes back with 2 stun counters on it. And then, when those are removed, this will come back again. This seems like a B+. Alright, we have another expensive demon here. So Reanimator seems like it could be a good thing. If you got one of these expensive mythic demons, you may want to look out for some Reanimating and ways to put it in your graveyard. Valgavoth, Terror Eater, 6 black for a 9/9 flying lifelink. Ward, sacrifice 3 non-land permanents, okay. Is there gonna be a downside? Probably not. If a card you didn't control will be put in the graveyard, opponent's graveyard for anywhere, exile it instead. During your turn, you may play cards exiled with Valgavoth. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its mana value and pay its mana cost. Okay, you have to pay 9 mana, which is super hard. Almost impossible, I want to say. So this is really a card you want to reanimate. In a deck that has reanimate plus cards that put this card in your graveyard, I'm going to pick it up on the A level. If you don't have reanimate, I'm not sure you can play it because 9 mana is so lot. If you get it into play, you probably win. So maybe a green-black ramp deck. The ideal home is probably like a green-black deck that has some reanimate target, but also has ramp that could maybe cast this card. I think it's a build around A, but you either need reanimate or a lot of ramp. I don't think you can expect to pay 9 mana for this. It just doesn't. It's not gonna work. Even though it's an insanely good stabilizer with the lifelink and the ward. Valgavoth's Faithful, black mana for a 1/1. You can pay 3 and a black, sacrifice and return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. We have a reanimate card. And this one is also kind of cool because you can, on turn 5, you can play it and immediately sacrifice it. Whereas if you play it early, your opponent can pick it off with a cheap removal spell. Not always gonna happen, but it also is a kind of a threatening card. I think it's a build around B- in the right deck. This could be like almost as good as the 5 mana version. It's also Could even get abused by returning it with some cheap card. Kind of cool with the 1 mana raise dead too. So I think it's a B minus in the right deck. And I could just see this playing this in any black deck. It doesn't seem like a bad card. A 1-drop that has good relevant ability later in the game. I would probably play it about a C plus in a regular black deck. Vile Mutilator, 5 black here for a 6/5 flyer. And since you can cast a spell, sacrifice a creature enchantment. Flying Trample. When it ends, each of them sacrifices a non-token enchantment. Then sacrifices a non-token creature. So if your opponent's got an enchantment creature and a regular creature, I think they lose both. Yeah. And the sick part is if you reanimate this, you don't even have to sacrifice a creature. It seems like a white one, but even better in some sense because the abusability with reanimate stuff. So it seems like a B. Winter's Intervention, 1 and a black instant. It is 2 damage to target creature and gain 2 life. Seems solid. Reminds me a little bit of Savor. You are gaining the life up front instead of having to crack the food. But on the flip side, you don't get the value of forage and stuff like that. So I think it's about par on Savor, but a little worse. So I think it's like a C plus though. Seems like a very good card to not die early. Withering Torment, 2 and a black for an instant. To sort a creature enchantment, you lose 2 life. It's like a Nocturnal Hunger, except you have no ability to give a food, but you can pick off a room if you want to. Seems like a C plus again.